Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network.
Attorney General, you've told us that it's a dangerous conspiracy theory to allege that the Department of Justice is communicating with these state and local prosecutions against Trump. You can clear it all up for us right now. Will the Department of Justice provide to the committee all documents, all correspondence between the department and Alvin Bragg's office and Fonnie Willis' office and Letitia James's office?
The offices you're referring to are independent offices of state.
I get that. The question is whether or not you will provide all of your documents and correspondence. That's the question. I don't need a history lesson.
Hey, Malcolm, so I saved this poll. This is a couple weeks ago, but just, approximately half of swing state voters are concerned about potential violence around November's election.
It should be.
Yeah, well, talk to us about that. Obviously, your last book, They Want to Kill Americans. It's become an everyday thing. Dr. Fauci just got a huge deluge of death threats because of idiot Marjorie Taylor Greene's questioning of him. Judge Merchan got, God knows how many hanging threats on social media. It's an everyday thing that we're numb to. Trump just incited violence again. Just said, American people aren't going to stand for it if I go to prison, blah, blah, blah.
One of my greatest accolades happened this week, too. That's Dan Savage, the sex columnist of Savage Love, actually wrote a tweet where he said, Malcolm Nance predicted it again.
Yeah.
And or something along those lines. And he goes, these people are planning for violence. And my problem is, I don't just have now to keep my eye on the right-wing extremists. We're having so much talk of extremism and violence on the extreme left, right? The crazy, essentially pro-Hamas left. There was that girl at Harvard University the other day who made a statement saying it's time for talking is over. It's time for violent action. And we need to escalate it more and more to waste the state's security resources. So now Joint Terrorism Task Force are going to have to watch those crazies, terrorist groups that may sprout up from the extreme left. We have already half of MAGA thinks that civil war is a good thing. Another group of them think that dictatorship is the best thing that can happen to us.
Yeah.
And here we are, because we're nice, are sitting here debating whether we should have this talk or whether we should talk about abortion and all these things. We are in an existential crisis in the United States. It could all go away, and then guns can come out from the other side.
Malcolm,
Trump said it himself.
I take your point, but, the FBI, among others, there's massive statistics to show the vast majority of the violence is from the right. So we should stipulate that. I'm not saying that the Gaza stuff is there's not stuff going on, but it just, this is what they want us to all think, that both sides do it. It's all equal, and it is not, as you know, and you wrote about it. It is hugely.
Yeah, but it takes resources away from the FBI.
Yeah, I know, I hear you.
And you know what? And their personal prejudices start kicking in about Muslims.
Yeah.
So there's a lot here at play and at stake. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that we, as the collective, democratic, progressive, righteous, non-crazy American left, which is commonly called everybody else other than the Trumpers,
right.
Need to start focusing on supporting ourselves in our message, because we're just getting washed away.
Yep. I was just telling you off air, but I had Representative Pramila Jayapal on panel in Seattle, and I said, well, I just had Malcolm Nance on Wednesday when I am a Zionist genocide promoter, and now that I've had you on, Twitter says that I am a pro-Hamas sympathizer. So, as you said, I should have just told her I'm bi. I go both ways.
Yeah, because you go both ways.
It's Pride Month, I'm very fluid. But, I was very glad, Malcolm. I wanted to get your take on President Biden. I don't know if you read his foreign policy interview with Time magazine, but he said, he was asked if Netanyahu is prolonging the war for his own political reason, and Biden said there's every reason for people to draw that conclusion. That seems to be one of the between a rock and a hard place. Biden is on this because, there are similarities, I think, between Netanyahu and Trump that way.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. And then yesterday he had to walk it back a bit because he pulled a Fox News. People are saying, that maybe if you looked at the situation, you could draw that conclusion. He didn't actually say, I believe Benjamin Netanyahu is doing it. But if the president of the United States is thinking like that, maybe, just maybe, he has a little bit more information that we do.
You think?
To understand that it is in Netanyahu's interest to come out and, draw things out. I'll tell you whose interest it's not in. The interest of the people of Israel in terms of their defense, and the people in Gaza who are having to suffer under the yoke of Hamas and the Israeli army, having to dig Hamas out of these holes. It is in no one's interest that this goes on any longer. So, as soon as I know what the Israelis are really waiting for. They're really waiting for their forces to kill Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, and then they're going to call it quits and go home and declare victory, and they rightly should. But anything beyond that, then you're going to have to draw some pretty stark conclusions that Netanyahu, who's working in the interest of Trump, because Trump would allow them to annex the West Bank and 10 million people if given the chance. Yeah. Whereas Biden is playing a very realistic, realpolitik game here.
Yeah. And Malcolm, honestly, I can't keep track of where we are between what, Biden says we're close to a deal, and then Hamas says one thing and then Israel says another. And he's in the middle of these amazingly complex negotiations with all these countries. It seems like we're getting close. And it's, I know it's the story since 19-whatever with the Middle East, but where do you think we're at with any kind of ceasefire or hostage deal?
First off and foremost, there are only three players that have any influence in this story. And that is Joe Biden, Bibi Netanyahu, and the right-wing extremists of Netanyahu's government.
Yeah.
Hamas is not a factor in these negotiations at all. They have no consideration. You can see that they've found bodies now where Hamas executed people who were not wounded or dead before 10/7, that they were alive and then they were executed by Hamas. So Hamas understands they're going to have to be, again, rooted out from the ground. They're not actually negotiating in good faith. They're terrorists. They lie. They started this whole thing. But right now, the right-wing extremists in Netanyahu's government are saying no deal at any level, all right, unless Hamas is completely and utterly destroyed. And right now, U.S. intelligence has assessed that Hamas is combat ineffective. They'll still have men here and there, but they don't have the organization or not get any resupply. And the limited scope Rafah operation Israel's been doing has been working. But you do have these extremists who are with Netanyahu, who they themselves want to further the war.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Malcolm, Israel reminds me a little bit of how the far right has captured the Republican Party here. That's what's happened in Israel, right? I remember I heard someone refer to Netanyahu as a moderate. And I'm like, I guess only because there's that someone referred to, right, because of the right-wing lunatics like Benny Gantz and all these lunatics in the Israeli government. And that's what it feels like. Like we've been captured by the far right in one of our parties here, right?
Yeah, well, they have their own share of Marjorie Taylor Greenes running around out there shouting that only, that these people are absolutists. These are the people who got them into trouble with the crazy statements that they made after 10/7, right, about clearing out Gaza and then calling up Jared Kushner and making it look like they were going to annex the place. Whereas 90% of Israel, I was there when they were having massive pro-hostage rallies down at the Art Museum and the Ministry of Defense. This is way after the summer protests, which had hundreds of thousands of people per night calling to collapse that government. These guys feel that they're in the driver's seat. Yeah. But they do have some requirements that they're going to have to meet. They are going to have to kill Sinwar. That guy cannot be allowed to go out. But then I heard something amazing I never thought of yesterday, which was the old Yasser Arafat deal where he got to go on a ship out of Tripoli and fly off to, be shipped off to Algeria. I heard an Israeli minister mention that yesterday. Well, they could leave Gaza. These guys aren't leaving anywhere. This is a fight to the death. And as long as Netanyahu is in charge, things are not going to be negotiable.
I don't know why whenever you say Yasser Arafat, remember, Chris, the night we reported they were throwing Yasser Arafat's body around like a cat toy?
Yeah.
After he died. I don't know what that was about. But anyway, it's interesting. When you said who wins by this, who does the, if this goes on. I thought of Putin when you said that. One of the stories you repeated, Hamas supporters wreck a Starbucks in Minneapolis. I mean, Putin loves this. Whatever hurts Joe Biden and creates chaos and division in America, right? I mean, on either side is good for Putin, right? Chaos.
Okay, well, now is the part where people start calling in saying Malcolm is a Zionist, genocide, or colonialist. These young kids just got the endorsement of Osama bin Laden's Al-Qaeda organization, the Free Palestine Students for Justice in Palestine movement on university campuses. The Ayatollah of Iran, Khamenei, is supporting them. So these guys who are part of that, the activists, the black bloc anarchists, and Antifa people, who were the ones who were smashing windows and spray painting Starbucks in Los Angeles and blaming it on black people, right? Yep. These are the people that are doing this stuff. Starbucks has nothing to do with Israel. It's a Washington State-based company. But then you get these crazies around the world start mimicking it. The United States is hurt, and Donald Trump gains, Putin gains, fascism grows. And, some people who have become these one-issue voters have decided they would rather have a fascist United States that they can fight in. The way, I believe it was Jill Stein who said, let Donald Trump, or implied that letting Donald Trump win would allow them to split the United States and move forward. You can't think like that. We are teetering on the precipice of the end of American democracy. And you've got to stop and think, are you going to work for the baddies? Or are you going to stand up with the goodies? And what they're doing right now does not help us.
To your point, by the way, Malcolm, who is it? I'm trying to find, what's her name? Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s wackadoodle vice presidential candidate.
Yeah. No one knows who she is.
Right. She's an anti-vaxxer lunatic. That's what she's put all her money into. Right. But anyway, I just thought, full circle with this Russia stuff, she basically, here it is. Nicole Shanahan, she praised Tucker Carlson, even going so far as to say she and Carlson are so on the same page in every single way. We're on the same page because we've left establishment thinking once and for all. Well, they've left any kind of thinking. Right. They're lunatics, but Russia, he might as well just be a full-time Russian propagandist, Tucker Carlson.
He is. They were going to offer him a channel or a show on Russia Today.
Yeah.
What is the matter with these people? How do they so hate America that they think that I have loads of money? Elon Musk is now forming these coalitions of the tech bros to support Trump. She and Robert Kennedy Jr. are just Trumpers that were put in there by Steve Bannon and Roger Stone and Tucker Carlson to destroy the ticket, to take the Bernie people off, the anti-vaxxers away, and to now damage Joe Biden politically. That's all there is to it. If you support them, you shouldn't even be listening to this show unless you want to realize that you're in the wrong political space, right? You're right up there with the...
I welcome the people back that Malcolm just told to leave. I welcome you all back.
Yes.
I was just saying, can we go three ways?
Hey,
as opposed to both ways?
Three-way for Pride Month.
Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. I hope you'll join me on my new audio podcast, Justice Matters. I'll be using my 30 years as a federal prosecutor and Army JAG to unpack, break down, and explain the legal issues of the day, particularly where the legal intersects with the political. Please look for Justice Matters with Glenn Kirshner wherever you generally get your podcasts.